Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2021 movie titled Old Henry. Please be advised that there might be spoilers ahead. The film begins in 1906, in the state of Oklahoma. A man named Brannigan is attempting to flee three people wearing sheriff badges, Dugan, Stillwell, and the group's commander, Ketchum. No matter how fast Brannigan runs, he is shot from a distance, falls to the ground and keeps crawling. Ketchum kicks him and asks for the location of another individual they've been pursuing, but Brannigan refuses to divulge the information. Ketchum continues to kick him. Ketchum decides to bound Brannigan to a horse and drag him across the countryside until he discloses the truth, which is that the man they're looking for is moving in the opposite direction. Ketchum resolves to kill Brannigan rather than let him go free. Meanwhile, Wyatt, an adolescent, and his old father, Henry McCarty, are working hard on their farm. Henry spent his upbringing in New York and traveled extensively before settling as a farmer in Oklahoma. Unfortunately, he lost his wife due to illness. Nonetheless, his brother-in-law Al travels quite a distance to Wyatt's home to lend a hand and be Wyatt's uncle. Their lives are tranquil and joyful. The main point of difficulty in their relationship is Wyatt's desire to travel and learn how to fire a handgun, both of which Henry prohibits. They're still in the early hours of the morning when they notice a horse go by with a blood-stained saddle but no rider. While Wyatt leads the terrified animal to the farm, Henry mounts his own horse and begins to investigate the surroundings. After a while, he discovers an unconscious man laying on the ground. Upon checking the man, he discovers a gunshot wound and the man has lost a lot of blood. Henry checks Curry on the shoulder, concealing the wound with mud and a rag. Then, he notices a handgun and a backpack filled with money, suggesting a violent situation he doesn't want to be involved in. However, he only walks a few feet away before feeling sorry for the man, so he returns, gathers everything, and, after removing any proof of their presence, takes Curry back to the farm with him. With Wyatt's assistance, they place Curry on a bed and treat his wounds. When night falls, Henry takes the handgun and the sack with the money and hides them in a secret compartment in his closet, utterly unaware that Wyatt is spying on him through the space beneath the door. The next morning, Henry determines that the wound won't heal without removing the bullet, prompting him to visit a doctor in town. However, before leaving, he ties Curry to the bed and puts the dagger he used to cut the rope on the nightstand. Wyatt enters Henry's closet after his father has left to inspect the hidden compartment. He grabs the gun and goes outside to practice shooting at a bottle after discovering the money in the bag. However, it takes him a few attempts to hit his target. Back home, Curry hears gunshots in his sleep and relives nightmares of the night his house burned down and his family perished, during which the perpetrator instructed him to remain silent. Soon after, Wyatt comes to put the pistol back in the closet, seizing the chance to uncover a box that Henry had hidden there a long time ago. Inside, he finds another pistol and a flurry of newspaper cuttings from prior crimes. On the way to town, Henry discovers that Ketchum and his men are following Curry's trail. Stillwell is such an adept tracker who reveals that someone has covered Curry's tracks. Thus, the three are now certain their suspect is working with someone else. The men hear some noises in the tall grass and fire, but Henry has already fled before they can reach him. Upon returning to the farm, Wyatt observes a slight looseness in one of Curry's ropes and the blanket covering his other hand. When Wyatt removes the blanket and discovers that it has vanished, Curry seizes the chance to stop pretending to be asleep and freezes himself. Grabbing the knife off the nightstand, he charges Wyatt, stating he doesn't want to hurt him and simply wants his bag back. When Henry returns, he throws Curry off his son and hits him, causing him to pass out again. They then tie Curry to a chair and wake him up. After realizing that going to town to see a doctor would be too dangerous, Henry attempts to remove the bullet from Curry's wound while asking some questions. Curry, squirming and sobbing in pain, claims to be a cop and tells Henry and Wyatt to flee before it's too late. Before Henry can ask any questions, Ketchum and his men emerge from the wilderness. When Henry goes to grab Curry's gun, he sees it has been shot and reloads it before going outside. Ketchum portrays himself as a sheriff and his partners as deputies before revealing that they are looking for Curry, a deadly criminal and murderer who also pretends to be a sheriff. Curious about Henry, Ketchum begins probing him about his personal life, becoming especially interested when he discovers his name is McCarty, as there was a criminal with a similar last name many years ago. Henry informs them that he has no family, so he can't be a relative, and he hasn't seen anyone who fits Curry's description, so he dismisses the men. In a sarcastic warning, Ketchum tells him to lock his doors at night before leaving. Then Henry goes back to the house and slaps Wyatt for using the gun. Since Wyatt was the only boy in the area who had never received pistol training and had to learn on his own, he was only curious about the experience. Wyatt criticizes Henry, labeling him as useless, and implies that he will leave the property as soon as he is able, leaving Henry to die alone. Henry continues to interrogate his prisoner, unable to think about how much it hurts. Curry asserts that he is the legitimate sheriff, while the trio are bank robbers who stole the badges of Curry's officers after their deaths. After obtaining the money, he sustained injuries, blacked out, and fell off his horse while fleeing, only to awaken on the property later. Curry isn't sure why Ketchum didn't shoot Henry, but he believes they will return. Meanwhile, Ketchum and his men are debating their choices. They distrust Henry and wonder why he's assisting a stranger, possibly due to a promise of a share of the money. Dugan finds it surprising that they didn't shoot him despite having a 3-to-1 advantage, so Ketchum clarifies that something unusual is happening. He doesn't believe Henry is doing it for the money, and he wasn't holding the weapon like a farmer. What they need to do first is gather information, so Dugan will remain on the premises while Ketchum and Stillwell rent some weaponry and pay Elle a visit. Because it is extremely dangerous to stay out this late, Henry instructs Wyatt to go inside before completing his agricultural work. Later, Henry serves Curry some soup himself, prompting Curry to protest his continuing incarceration. Henry questions Curry about his background to determine whether he can trust him. Curry tells him about all the people he's worked and lived with. All of them had names Henry recognizes from his travels. He also apologizes for jumping on Wyatt, explaining that he was scared and disoriented when he awoke in an unknown environment. Henry's face is familiar, but he denies having ever met Curry before, releasing one of his hands. Then, Henry places his revolver on the table and tries to refill his glass, expecting Curry to take it, but he doesn't. Conversely, Curry persists in recounting tales from his youth, including his encounter with Billy the Kid's shooting. Curry had heard Billy's voice in a dream earlier. Hearing the stories and seeing Curry not grab for the pistol is enough to convince Henry. He releases Curry's other hand, returns his gun, and tells him to leave his house before the goons return. They are unable to continue their conversation as Dugan begins firing at them through the window. Curry fires back, and Wyatt hurries over to see what's going on, catching a bullet on the arm. Curry is relieved of discomfort. As Dugan sneaks beneath the house, Henry grabs his revolver, blasting through the floor whenever he moves. Henry devises a strategy and offers the gun to his son, along with some shooting tips, before dropping a book on the floor to trick Dugan into shooting in that direction as he rushes the opposite way. Henry rushes outdoors with his shot, continuing to fire under the house until Dugan runs out and sustains a leg injury. Henry lunges at him and demands that he divulge some information, but Dugan refuses, so Henry murders him. After discovering a gang mark on Dugan's skin, he feeds the body to the pigs, making it disappear. Following that, Henry responds to Wyatt's wound while avoiding his son's queries about his past. Wyatt holds the belief that his father lacks respect for him, and he cannot anticipate receiving the same level of respect in return. After checking on Curry, who is still dreaming about the fire, Henry goes outside with his gun and prepares for the worst. Elle goes bird hunting in the morning, which makes it simple for Ketchum and Stillwell to find him. Ketchum and Stillwell want to learn more about Henry, but he refuses to answer their questions and gets hit when he tries to defend himself. Back at the farm, Henry and Wyatt assist Curry in getting ready to go. Curry, on the other hand, can barely walk, let alone ride a horse, so he tells them to go while he stays behind to delay the goons. Wyatt wishes to stay and defend his home as well, but Henry agrees with Curry and prepares his son to leave. Regrettably, a terrible surprise awaits them as they step outside. Ketchum and Stillwell have returned with a large number of hired weapons. Ketchum makes a bargain with the father and son. If they give him curry, he'll let them leave without a scratch. Because Henry refuses to accept, Ketchum goes on to say that they have captured Al, who is hurt and bleeding. Henry takes his weapon and offers it to Wyatt, telling him to stay inside, away from the window, and only shoot when absolutely necessary. Ignoring Curry's request for his handover, Henry goes to visit Ketchum, who admits he isn't a sheriff and is eager to learn who Henry is. Ketchum offers to swap Al for Curry, but Henry declines, and because neither he nor Al would reveal any secrets, Ketchum kills Al straight away. This forces Wyatt to emerge and start shooting, but Henry drags him back inside as the gang retaliates, hitting Curry on the leg as he approaches the window. Henry instructs Wyatt to keep his head down after chastising him for acting impulsively. Hearing these words that correspond to his dream, Curry eventually joins the dots and realizes Henry's true identity is Billy the Kid. He did not die the night of the fire. He simply escaped. Henry ignores him and instead focuses on retrieving his old gun and holster before rushing outdoors to begin firing after a few words. Henry shoots a few gang members before returning to the house through the window, leaving a gap wide enough for Curry to shoot a few more men. As the remaining men approach the house, Henry grabs a knife and flees through the back door. He sneaks around, stabbing 2 crooks before hiding under the house to shoot a third. Then he encounters Stillwell, who also tries to use his knife, but Henry dispatches him before he can move. Only Ketchum remains. Hidden behind the pig pen, he manages to inflict a wound on Henry's shoulder, prompting Henry to retreat into the woods. This forces Ketchum to pursue him, as the 2 men seek cover behind the woods and exchange bullets. Henry demonstrates his superior marksmanship by inflicting wounds on Ketchum's leg and shoulder. Ketchum manages to fire one final shot before Henry kills him for good. Henry approaches Ketchum as he struggles for his life. Henry's injuries are minor, but as soon as he returns to the farm, he visits Curry to seek some medical attention for himself. When Henry removes Curry's sleeve to examine it more closely, he discovers a startling revelation about his arm. Henry discovers that Curry has the same mark as Dugan, and Curry shoots Henry for noticing it. Curry did not legally lie. He admits to having served as sheriff in the past, albeit dishonestly. Curry and his deputy had previously partnered with Ketchum on a task, but when they realized Ketchum was going to kill them while they were working on their most recent assignment, Curry attempted to flee, which sparked the entire incident. Curry is desperate to prove that he killed Billy the Kid, despite the fact that Henry is still suffering and not dead. However, Wyatt arrives just in time to assassinate him before he can use his weapon. Henry believes it is too late to be taken to the doctor, so he wants to say his final words to his son before he dies. Henry wants Wyatt to understand that only half of the stories he'll hear about Billy the Kid are true. Wyatt will hear numerous stories about Billy the Kid. He readily confesses that he is not a morally upright person and does not believe in the concept of atonement. Throughout this time, he has only sought relief in being a loving parent to his child. Henry believes he does not belong in this new world, while Wyatt is confident that he does. After processing his sadness over his father's death, Wyatt decides to bury him in the same cemetery as his mother. When he feels emotionally prepared, he takes his belongings, saddles his horse, and rides away from the farm, exactly as he has always wanted to do. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.